Yo, 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 hit 'em high, hit 'em low. Welcome to the Noble Just Ball podcast. It's your boy Nick Hughes alongside Julian Delgado. As always, how's it going, sir?
It's going swell.
Going swell, going swell. We got some big things to talk about. We're gonna lead off today with the American League East.
Hmm.
We both got our Yankee stuff popping off today, so that's exciting, exciting all the way around. I rock the road grays, and I don't know if that's indicative of something we might talk about, but we'll get there.
Nope, me.
Um, so we're gonna jump in first, though, alphabetically as we do, with the Toronto Blue Jays to
Yeah.
kick things off here. This lineup is, I mean, it looks stacked on paper, so we'll just get right to it. Right field, George Springer leading things off, followed by shortstop Bo Bichette at first base, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. DH Brandon Belt looks like a platoon situation with Danny Jansen. Catching Alejandro Kirk in left field, Dalton Varsho. Third base, Matt Chapman. Second base, Whit Merrifield. And Kevin Kiermaier in center, with Santiago Espinal apparently slated to do a bit of a platoon with him. I guess in that situation, you would slide, I guess, Whit Merrifield back out to the outfield.
Yeah.
On the plate aside, or on the bench beside Jansen and Espinal, you have Kevin Biggio, Nathan Lukes as your extra outfielder. Uh, as we move along, other guys we could see sometime potentially. Spencer Horwitz as a first baseman slash corner outfielder. Otto Lopez could see some time out there. Let's see, Addison Barger, Aurelvis Martinez, Leo Jimenez. Uh, yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I'll kick this one off. Love
No,
what the
of course. Go
lineup
ahead.
is. Huh?
So go ahead.
Yeah, I love what this lineup is. On paper, love the addition of Brandon Belt in the offseason. I think he has a
Yeah.
very strong veteran presence. Still in shock that he's not going to be a San Francisco Giant anymore. So that is a little weird for me. Love adding Kevin Kiermaier. I like what the lineup is. I do not like the depth.
Yeah. The depth is definitely
Uh,
one with you.
Nathan Luke's, the over reliance on a kid who has no major league experience to be your fourth outfielder is a little worrisome, especially with George Springer, Kevin Kiermaier, both having some injury history to date,
Yeah.
especially pretty recently. That worries me quite a bit, honestly. Dalton Varsho, I loved that pickup in the offseason. Brandon Brito is a huge fan of Varsho.
Hmm.
For me, I look at it, I think to myself, man, Varsho having to slot into center kind of takes away the legs a bit if you want to still, throw him out there to catch in a sort of pinch situation. You don't really have a whole lot in terms of catching depth now because you traded away Gabriel Moreno to the
Yeah.
Diamondbacks in that Varsho trade. I mean, how do you feel about this?
No, the depth definitely worries me. I do like the lineup, but all of this pertains to just health. If they're healthy, they can go a long way and eventually threat for the division. Um, it just comes down to that because even this spring they've been a little banged up. Vladdy missed a little bit of time. You suspect Springer at some point. I love the addition of our show. I think it adds just a depth to this outfield in terms of defense. If they, cause especially if Springer can stay healthy, I really love this outfield.
Yeah,
I really do
no, for
love
sure.
it. Like just defensively, the contact hitting between all of them, it's going to be a really good, fun outfield to watch. It's the injury bug just worries me a lot.
Yeah. One added note. I've always been a huge fan of Kevin Kiermaier
Yeah,
and Whit Merrifield. Very happy to not see them at the top of a lineup though anymore. Like defensively, they're amazing, incredible base running. I'd
yeah,
rather they be more of a like surprise, like a happy surprise for the Blue Jay team.
yeah. No, I love the Kiermaier's at the bottom of the lineup. That
Yeah,
way, when it turns over, he's going to be on base. You can get that speed
yeah,
to get some runs in.
yeah, for sure. As we move into the starting rotation, this is something that's been a strength at least the last 2 years on paper for the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, the execution has not been there. Unfortunately, despite the big money deals that they've thrown around a bit, they'll begin this season with on the DL or IL. Unfortunately, Hyunjin Ryu still likely to miss a sizable chunk of time after having Tommy John last June. Mitch White shoulder impingement. So I don't exactly see even a return date for him. So we'll see when he
Yeah.
might be able to add to that depth a bit in the rotation. But otherwise, we go Alek Manoah, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Chris Bassett, Yusei Kikuchi, other guys who could see some time in that starting rotation. Nate Pearson, Yosver Zulueta, Zach
Yeah,
Thompson,
he's currently
and
their number 3 overall prospect.
yeah. Uh, I mean, yeah, I think maybe by the end of the year we see Ricky Tideman. Uh, but yeah, that's more or less what the rotation is slated to look like. I'll give you first crack at this one. How do you feel about that rotation?
I actually think it's a pretty strong rotation. The fifth spot with Yusel Kukic, it's kind of interchangeable, and I expect with Zuleta, I
Yeah,
expect him to be up at some point, probably like July or August, or if someone just needs some rest days, then bring him up. Because I see he's slated to make some big league innings this year. I really
yeah,
like the addition of Chris Bassett, though. I feel like
yeah.
that gives an extra depth and a different type of character to this lineup that's definitely needed. And I expect big years out of Jose Barrios and another big year out of Alex Monea.
Yeah, for me, I very much agree with you. This is one of those, this rotation can't be as bad as they seemed last year.
Yeah,
We talked a bit about this with the Chicago White Sox, where you have the big names, but because of injury and quite frankly, just underachieving, it definitely felt a bit odd to have, um, the, it felt very, very strange. I just got a Yankee update on a Forbes list, but we'll get there. Uh, it felt a bit strange to sort of see these guys underachieve in that capacity. This is a rotation that is definitely better than it showed it was last year.
yeah,
And quite frankly, for me, I think it has to be, considering how much money the Blue Jays have invested in a starting rotation. I think over the course of the last two off seasons, three if you throw in what Hyunjin Ryu got, I think it's like a 5 year, $100 million contracts on to that
yeah,
account.
exactly.
Yusei Kikuchi got a huge deal last year. Jose Barrios got traded for and signed a huge extension. They signed Kevin Gausman to a big year. This year it's Chris Bassett. Um, so they're paying a lot of guys money to, not exactly be a league average rotation. So that's something to watch.
Yeah, especially Gossman. He needs to bounce back from last year
Yeah,
because he struggled mightily last year.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Now for the bullpen, we go starting on the IL. Unfortunately, Chad Green, who they picked up, is kind of a flyer. They're kind of hoping the former Yankee might be there in time to sort of help them at the end of the season. And
Yeah,
sort of, pave the way forward for them. As we move on, though, we go closing the door. Jordan Romano. Also in the bullpen, it goes Eric Swanson, Yimi Garcia, Anthony Bass, Tim Meza, Adam Simber, Zach Pop, Trevor Richards. Let's see, is there anybody else that might factor in? Trent Thornton could factor in. Former big leaguers that aren't currently on the major league roster: Jay Jackson, Junior Fernandez, Luke Bard, Paul Fry, Julian Fernandez. Uh, I mean, they got some names in this bullpen. I think this has been for me this has been a weakness of the Blue Jays, essentially since the departure of God, when they did the closer swap with the Astros years ago. They got Ken Giles back, who was the guy going the other way. Ended
uh,
up unfortunately committing domestic violence, but uh, not remembering his name off the top of my
yeah,
head.
me
Lights
too.
out closer they had early in his career. They did the swap for Kevin Giles with the Astros. But since then, it's very much felt for me like they were sort of devoid of that like back end presence that Jordan Romano has definitely felt like since then. You're definitely rooting for him. Love his stuff and love what he can be for this team. For me, I'd like to see another lefty or two make their way onto this roster at some point. Um, their right-handed guys are very righty oriented. I think Zach Pop has some good numbers against lefty batters, but aside from that, you'd like them to add somebody else to this bullpen who, can get some left-handed batters out consistently.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
No, it's definitely the weakness. I like Jordan Romano. For me, I feel like it's not that deep of a bullpen. Whereas one or two guys goes down, they're gonna feel it mightily. And I feel like that's the bullpen is the thing they really gotta harp on because that was the thing that kind of took them out of that Seattle series last postseason.
Yeah.
So I
Uh,
feel like they definitely got to attack that, and we could probably see one of these names go down into the bullpen if once the rotation gets a little too
yeah.
crowded when Jun Ryu gets back, or even I think Chad Green is going to help them,
Yeah.
especially if they are in there in a late playoff push.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is going to be the thing that definitely hinders them.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, we'll move right along. By the way, it was Roberto Ozuna was the guy I was looking for.
Here we go.
Uh, so were the police. Oof, man, that's rough. I'm sorry on that one, guys. Moving on to the Baltimore Orioles. Damn, uh, that's unfortunate. Um, we're going to start their lineup off in center field with Cedric Mullins, followed by a wonder kid, Adley Rushman, doing the catching behind him, third base, Gunnar Henderson. Anthony Santander played right, Ryan Mountcastle at first. Kyle Stowers will be a bit of a utility guy, or not a utility guy, but a platoon DH with Ryan McKenna. In left field, you'll see Austin Hayes at second base, Adam Frazier platooning with Ramon Rios, and Jorge Mateo at shortstop, rounding it out. On that bench, aside from Rios and McKenna, you have James McCann, former Met, and Terran Vavra getting a nice long look as a utility guy. Other guys you could see in the big leagues for some time, Anthony Van Boom behind the plate, Ryan O'Hearn. I didn't realize they had picked up with Ian Diaz, who was the uncomfortable story of the offseason. I think he got picked up and cut
Yeah,
something like 6 times before spring training even got started. Um, some other names to look out for. Joey Ortiz made the 40 man. You could also see the debuts of some top prospects for them this year in the outfield in Colton Cowser, Hassan Kjerstad, Daz Cameron's on this team, Nomar Mazara's on this team, Franchi Cordero's on this team. So some big league caliber outfielders who maybe just haven't found their footing just yet. Definitely will help out with a bit of the depth there. How do you feel about this team?
I think this team can surprise a lot of people. I'm really high up on this on the youth movement. I love watching Mullins play. Santander had a phenomenal World Baseball Classic. And then I'm expecting to see big things out of like Gunnar Henderson and Jorge Mateo, some of the young kids coming up, especially Gunnar Henderson right now is ranked number one overall in MLB prospects. I'm expecting big things, especially with how Adley Rushman just came in and started swinging.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was definitely something to behold last year. Gunnar Henderson for me is, hiding him at third base is going to be big.
Yeah.
He's, I think, the biggest hole in his game is defensively, like the mobility at shortstop. Jorge Mateo is kind of interesting for me because I think I picked him to be traded like 10 different places. So something to definitely watch out for. But top to bottom, I love this lineup.
Yeah.
It's very contact oriented. It's very defense and speed oriented, which for me, I think is incredible considering, you're not exactly looking for the lineup to have a lot of pop when you push the entire outfield back, or at least left field,
Yeah. The
being
Yankees
pushed
were
back
good outfield.
substantially. So I'm not exactly looking for power hitters in this lineup anymore. I'm looking for guys to spray the ball. So that'll be interesting to watch. Moving on to the starting rotation, they're going to do without John Means in the early going, another Tommy John guy who you hope to see back,
Yeah.
hopefully around the time of the All-Star break. So, but we will, sort of reserve that for then. In the meantime, though, you have Kyle Gibson, Cole Irvin, Kyle Bradish, Dean Kremer, Grayson Rodriguez was added to the 40 man. I did not realize him would be given the ball to start the season. Wow.
They need to.
In that five hole. That's interesting. Some other guys you could see in that rotation, DL Hall saw a bit of time in the big leagues last year. Bruce Zimmerman, Spencer Watkins, and Drew Rom got added to the 40 man as well. Seth Johnson, another top prospect, is unfortunately on the IL. He's only in high A. I didn't realize that, but they got added to the 40 man to protect Rule 5 draft consideration last year. How do you feel with that rotation as is right
To be honest, I think it's very middle of the pack rotation without Means. Once Means comes back, I think that's going to add a different type of energy to this.
now?
I love that they're bringing Grayson into this season,
Yeah,
and I really am excited to see what he can do on the major league level because he dominated every single minor league he was
yeah,
in. He dominated my MLB The Show Diamond Dynasty team for a little while.
love that.
I love his stuff, so I'm expecting big things from him.
No, I mean I'm really really stoked about what he could be out there and stuff. So definitely something to behold, something to watch going forward. Just looking around here real quick. Okay. Yeah, no, I like what this rotation can be. I think the addition of Kyle Gibson in the offseason is kind of a guy who's been there, done that. Obviously, it's not a
Yeah,
player that jumps out at you, but you have some, some guys who've been in the big leagues for a couple of seasons in Cole Irvin, Dean Kremer, John Means, obviously, when he gets back. But for the younger crop in this rotation, guys who could factor in like DL Hall, I still like a lot. And
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if there's still a little bit of a shakeup between him and Rodriguez, at least in the early going. Having a guy who's been around the block a few times, able to sort of step in and be that mentor for them, I like a lot. Um,
have they announced who's opening for them for
I don't think they've made an official announcement. I'd assume it's Gibson.
I'd assume it's Gibson unless they're going full bore with Grayson, but I
I mean,
doubt it.
that would be kind of insane if they went Grayson Rodriguez, their opening day starter, his
Yeah,
first ever start. Um, that's that's a that's a statement for sure. I mean, you love this statement at that point, but I think
yeah, because I
that's
know they're really high up on the kid.
no for sure. And you root for him to maybe get the ball next year on opening day. But uh I mean, if they were to go Grayson all the way, that's it's something. That means they believe he is a Cy Young caliber guy this year. So that's something to watch. Moving on though, we'll go into the bullpen. They're gonna do without Dylan Tate for a nice little stretch after a flexor strain dating back to late last season. So he's going to miss a little bit of time. In the meantime, though, Felix Bautista, who really established himself last year as their closer, regardless, will be in the bullpen, closing things down. Sionel Perez will be out there with him. Michael Givens returns to Baltimore. Keegan Aiken, Brian Baker, Tyler Wells, Andrew Politi, and Austin Roth, who could also see some time in rotation. I forgot to mention. Some other names of note, Spencer Watkins, who I mentioned before, could factor in to a bullpen role. Michael Bauman, Nick Vespi, Yainer Cano, maybe Joey Kriebel, Logan Gillespie. All right, so they got some names. Former Red Sox, Darwinson Hernandez is out there, Eduardo Pizarro, Shane Veal, Reed Garrett. So they got some former major league arms.
Yeah,
Um, and I'll be honest, the strength for the bullpen with me here is depth and controllability, both in terms of options and years here. The fact of the matter is as a lot of these guys struggle, save Perez, Gibbons, and Voth, you can fluctuate who's in this bullpen with guys in the minors who are getting off to hot starts. You can kind of use and abuse the sort of five call-ups and send downs allotted to each guy depending on a series, how
yeah,
you like how their arm matches up against a team you're going to face. Um, it's something that's a little, I think, underrated in baseball. As you know, you look to guys to be sort of that back of the, you know, bullpen guy, and you know, you want the big names in the pen. I'm all for that, but having a little bit more flexibility to shuffle guys in and out of a bullpen rotation, you know, I think is very interesting.
Yeah, no, I like Felix Bautista in the back end. I think he's going to have a really big year, and especially now that he doesn't have to split saves with why am I blanking on his name? They traded him last season to the Twins.
Oh, Jorge Lopez.
Jorge Lopez.
Yeah,
Um, now that they don't have to split closing roles, I think he's going to have a lot of save opportunities. Like you said, I really like the fact that they can just bring up and bring down whoever's you're struggling. All right, go work on some things in AAA, and we'll call you back up in the next
yeah,
series and next two. I do like that for them, especially they're all young, they're all moldable. Pretty much, you can do whatever you want with this bullpen.
yeah, for sure. We'll move on to the Tampa Bay Rays here. And with the Rays, it starts at the top of the lineup. The way it started feels like for, you know, 3, 4 seasons now, and you love it. Yandy Diaz now slides over to a first base role more consistently. Wander Franco bats second, place short. Randy Arozarena in left. Brandon Lau at second base. Harold Ramirez DHing. In right, you go Manny Margot, third base, Isaac Paredes, catching Christian Betancourt, and in center field, Jose Siri. On the bench, you go Francisco Mejia, Taylor Walls, Jonathan Aranda, who you expect to factor in a bit more to the first base this year, and Luke Raley will also be out there. Uh, Other options could see Rene Pinto could see some time. Um, Curtis Mead, Oselvis Basabe as infielders. Vidal Brujan is likely to get a good amount of time because of his positional flexibility. Bryce Jones, maybe one of the best speed threats in the minor leagues to date. Josh Lowe in the outfield. So some and Ben Gamble's I didn't realize on
And
their spring training roster. Um, I love what this lineup is as presently constructed. I think
yeah,
for me, the biggest weakness remains catching from the offensive side of things. You know, it's kind of a toss up for me whether Francisco Mejia or Christian Betancourt provide more to you. I think they'll see almost equal time behind the plate, almost like a 3-2 split, if you will, in any
yeah,
5 given days. Um, you know, I love what this is from a put the ball in play, getting them on, get them over, get them in kind of lineup. You have your Pop and Franco, Rosarena and Lau, you know, but you have a lot of guys who are professional hitters, you know, up and down that really make me excited for what this team looks like going forward. How about yourself?
yeah. No, same thing. I the catcher is a little bit iffy. I like Mejia's defense a little bit more. So I know Fangraphs has Mejia more with more plate appearances, and I can see that him ended up winning the full time catcher position.
Yeah,
Especially being a switch hitter, it adds a little bit different depth to the bottom of the lineup. Um, but like I said, this is especially if Franco makes the jump. Rosarena's been lights out, and I pray that he brings that into the regular season,
yeah,
unless it's against the Yankees. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited what this lineup can be.
for sure, for sure. Now we move on to the starting rotation. Unfortunately, a young guy we were definitely looking forward to seeing in that rotation. We missed likely the entirety of the season. Shane Baz, top prospect, we were very much looking forward to getting another full year of. In addition to him, Tyler Glass now will start the season on the IL. He'd come back from Tommy John, but is now out with a strained oblique. Uh, Last reports I saw, he hadn't exactly started to throw off a mound just yet again. So it'll be a little bit of time. They'll bring him back in a bit slower. Uh, Out there though to open the season, Shane McClanahan, who's been something special. Drew Rasmussen, Zach Eflin the biggest contract in Tampa Bay Rays history. Wow. Jeffrey Springs, Yanni Chirinos, other guys who could factor into that rotation going forward. Luis Patino has been up for a couple years since the trade from San Diego a few years back. Josh Fleming, same deal. Taj Bradley is their number two overall prospect. Is now on the 40 man. He could factor in a bit. A couple of former major leaguers in Brendan McKay, Elvin Rodriguez, and Cooper Criswell could also factor in as non-roster invites. I'm gonna just, I mean, you know my feelings on this Tampa Bay Rays rotation already.
Yeah.
For those who don't, I think this Tampa Bay Rays rotation is the thing that makes this Rays team feel scarier than it's felt in a little bit.
Yeah.
I fear them again because this is a team who's been, in the playoffs every year, despite the fact that they didn't really have a marquee name sitting atop the rotation post, I don't know, David Price. Uh, Now they got it. Now
Yeah.
they have it, and then
Yeah.
some. In McClanahan, and it's just depth beyond that. Again, it's a lot of interchangeability with most guys there. You could see them doing a six-man rotation. Hell, I'm gonna be honest, for just sheer, keeping guys healthy, I could see them move to a freaking seven-man rotation just to
Yeah,
make
they
sure
could.
you're
They
really
could.
giving Glass now his space and not using up too many bullets from a very young McClanahan. So I love very much what this rotation looks like right now. How do you feel?
Yeah, no, I'm gotta agree. It's the strength of this team, and it's crazy to say because we both love that offense.
Yeah.
Um, the starting pitching's always been the strength. They just shut people down, elongating gaps. Um, I think me and you both have Shane winning the AL Cy Young. No,
No, I
I,
think for the AL Cy Young, I had gone Framber Valdez.
okay, you went Framer, I went McClanahan. I
Yeah.
think he's just gonna have a stellar season. Really, just staple home that he's the guy. Um, Taj Bradley, I feel like he could make some noise when he gets called up to.
Yeah.
They have the depth to make this into a scary roster,
Yeah.
especially when Glass now comes back.
This is
Um,
almost a scary one where you think Shane Baz was their top prospect for almost two full seasons in the minor
yeah,
leagues. Um, I look at him now and I think to myself, wow, does he have a spot in this rotation next season? That's scary. That's a scary thought.
it's a scary
Uh,
thought, but yeah, no, he's getting in this rotation next year.
Potentially. I mean, we'll see what happens. But we move on though. Another closer by sort of, not quite committee, but just more so, who you need them to get out kind of thing. You can see a fluctuating eighth and ninth
Yeah,
between Peter Fairbanks and Jason Adam. Also in that bullpen would be Jalen Beeks, Colin Posh, Ryan Thompson, Garrett Clevenger, Trevor Kelly, and Kevin Kelly. Unfortunately, they'll be without Andrew Kittredge for Tommy John. He'll miss a good portion of the season after having his surgery last June. Sean Armstrong will also begin on the IL with some neck discomfort dating back to February, right before the start of spring. So we'll see when he might be able to factor back in. In the meantime, though, you might also have the major league debut of Colby White, a guy I know they really like in that system as sort of the first homegrown, if you will, Rays reliever. And then Calvin Boucher got a taste of the big league action last year. Some other guys out there, Kyle Crick, Heath Hembry, former big leaguers. Hector Perez is an interesting one. Ben Heller is like the kind of name that as a Yankee fan I fear because we tried it so many times, it never worked. So if the Rays pull it off, yikes.
yeah,
Uh, I mean, I like this bullpen. I mean, it feels like a typical Rays bullpen. There's a ton of guys who can get you out in a ton of different ways. It's super well balanced. You have righties who can get lefties. You have lefties who can get righties. This has been a strength of Tampa Bay for forever. Is for some reason they can take your unwanted, failed starter, turn him into the reliever of,
tomorrow. Yeah,
a potential reliever of the year candidate. So, uh, It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what's in the water in Tampa Bay's, but they don't get big names, but they make them just look like all
Yeah.
stars. It's I don't get it. I don't know what's going on, but
No.
the bullpen is just crazy good, always.
Yeah. A quick little nod because Kevin Cash is actually my manager of the year pick for the American League.
Yeah,
And if that is the case, that would be his third in 4 seasons. So just throwing that out there.
he if anybody deserves it, it's him.
Yeah,
He's
for sure. We'll move on to the Boston Red Sox. But regardless, we move on to the Boston Red Sox. This year, it's an interesting year for them. I'm going to be honest. We start with this lineup, starting at first base, and leading off in a platoon role. Will be you know really highly touted rookie Tristan Casas, platooning with Bobby Dalbec, still looking to get his big league footing. Rafael Devers will follow them at third. Justin Turner DHing Masataka Yoshida, a true hero of the World Baseball Classic for Team Japan, will be out there in his first big league action. Kind of surprised in hindsight nobody looked at him for Rookie of the Year. Um,
yeah.
Right field, Alex Verdugo. Shortstop to start the season, Enrique Hernandez, Kike, which is definitely something interesting. Um, in center field, Adam Duvall. At catcher, Reese McGuire. And at second base, Christian Arroyo. On the bench, aside from Dalbec, you have Jorge Alfaro, Rob Refsnyder, Rymel Tapia. I don't know if I said it like that. That was weird. Of course, they'll be without Connor Wong due to a strained hamstring for a little while. Trevor Story underwent elbow surgery back in January. And then the Trevor Story replacement, Adalberto Mondesi, uh, is still out with knee surgery since last May. So ideally, he can get back and sort of aid Kike there, the shortstop role. Um, Additionally, guys who could see some time, number 9 overall prospect in the system, Ronaldo Hernandez, could get a glimpse at catching. You look at Daniel Palka as someone who can see some time at first base of the corner outfield. Yu Chang, Emmanuel Valdez, David Hamilton, Nico Goodrum was a not roster invite. Let's see. Anybody else? Jaron Duran, who's been a part of things for a little while in Boston. Sadani Rafaela, Wyatt Abreu was a star of the Arizona Fall League. Greg Allen is now on this team. Narcisco Cook had a good spring. So I mean, they have some names. They're not without names, to phrase this, mildly. How do you feel?
To be honest, I don't know what is going on, especially having Kike in short. Has Kike ever played short?
Kike has not played short since his time with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's yeah.
He was originally a shortstop and sort of transitioned into a utility role everywhere. So it
Yeah,
has been some time.
I think also missing Story in his bat. It's going to be a struggle off the bat for this team. I really like Yoshida. I think he's going to just go crazy, especially with that triples corner over in right field. Um, Devers, obviously, you always expect. I'm curious about what Tristan Casas can do.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. Looking forward to see what he can do if he can add anything to this team to really get them to try to surprise people. Um, I don't know. I just feel like this team's kind of all over the place with their lineup. I'm not a big
It's
fan.
a very all over the place lineup. I like the bats in the lineup. I
Yeah,
think where I'm struggling the most at the moment is how out of position everyone is. Both Tristan Casas and Bobby Dahlbeck are natural third basemen who are now doing a platoon at first because Rafael Devers is there. Uh, you have Kike, as we mentioned, trying to play short for a while. Adam Duvall is more of a corner outfielder, originally a third baseman, and is now going to play center.
yeah.
I do not get me wrong; he's a super athlete, but something to behold. Uh, it kind of just feels very everywhere for me.
Yeah, same here. And
Um,
I feel like it's just because of the Story injury that really like kind of forced them
yeah,
to get a little creative with it.
yeah. I mean, I think the Red Sox are very much taking this as a let's see what we got here.
Yeah.
They added some veteran presences, some good veteran presences in the sense of Duvall, Justin Turner. I feel like is an addition that can't be understated. You love what they got in Yoshida, uh, but still, I'm looking up and down this lineup and thinking to myself, man, I can't tell you the last time I saw such and such play this position. So it's a very weird. I agree with you there. Thing. Moving on to starting pitching. For what feels like the first time in forever. Uh, I mean, injury or not, Corey Kluber
Yeah.
usurps Chris Sale as the opening day starter. Uh, this feels like something I said about an all-star game in like 2014. Uh, but here we are. Corey Kluber is going to be the opening day starter, followed by Chris Sale, who's finally healthy for an opening day, thankfully. Very excited to see him back out on the mound in Fenway. Tanner Houck behind him, Nick Pivetta, Cutter Crawford behind him. They will start the season with Brian Bello, who's been kind of an interesting name for the Red Sox the last couple of years, trying to see what he can fully be for them. He has some forearm tightness dated back in February, so he'll miss some time. Uh, Garrett Whitlock underwent hip surgery back in September, so he'll be out still for a little bit. And then James Paxton feels like he's always hurt. I know because I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
Has a good portion of his tenure with us. Has a strained hamstring from earlier this month. He'll miss a little bit of time still. I think he just resumed throwing from a mound. Some other names who could see, some pitching or at least some starts. Brandon Walter is their 10th overall prospect. Brian Mata, their 13th overall prospect. Chris Murphy is on their top 50. Former major leaguers Jake Farias in their system now. Matt Dermody is in their system now. Sterling Sharp is in their system now. So they have some interesting potential options in that rotation. Um, I'm gonna come right out and just say the thing I would have been most excited to see in this rotation would be Garrett Whitlock and Brian Bello, two young guys
Mhm.
who have proven they have good stuff. Whitlock was, I mean, a freaking Yankee killer literally a couple years ago. Uh, it's one of those. Uh, if you showed me the top two in this rotation, 5, 6 years ago, I am so excited.
Yeah.
As it's currently presented to me, though, I'm a little okay. We'll see. Hopefully, they can both pitch for substantial amount of time, not miss too much time throughout the season. Chris Sale in particular, you almost forget how good he can be just because he hasn't been able to be out there. So you root for him to have a full healthy season. But this is a very kind of year for me with the Red Sox rotation.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It's very iffy. I feel like they need to get younger. They need to get healthy because that's the big thing where you're already missing two, three big names. It could get a lot worse if two or three more people go down.
Yeah, no, for sure. I very much agree with you. Um, into the bullpen we go. They'll be without Wyatt Mills and Joely Rodriguez to open the season, as both one has the elbow inflammation, Rodriguez with the strained oblique, but likely to rejoin at some point over the course of spring here. Kenley Jansen will do the closing, big signing for the Red Sox this year. Chris Martin, John Schreiber, Richard Blyer, Ryan Brazier, Caleb Ort, Zach Kelly, and Josh Winkowski would join him. And my question for you, is this the whitest bullpen in baseball?
Yeah. outside of Kenley Jensen, yes.
Man, oh man. That's a wow, a
Hey,
lot of consonants in those names.
but it's very fitting for Boston.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, just throw out there, Dan Altavilla and Ryan Sheriff are both non-roster invites who have had decent springs. So curious to see if they might factor in to some decision making as we go forward. Yeah, for me, this is it's a better Boston bullpen than we've seen
Yeah,
in recent years. Kenley Jansen finally giving you sort of like you know legitimate stopper at the end of the ball game. Uh, Unfortunately, it's kind of felt for me for a while that things have been pretty hit or miss for the Red Sox. So we'll sort of see how that factors out. Um, yeah, and then we will move on to the 27-time World Series champion here. He's just a subtle plug there. Before we go forward, Julian, is there something you might want to tell us about the Yankees in regards to yourself?
um, yeah. So I was kind of gonna hold off this announcement till the major league season when we get everybody together, but it looks like I'll be wearing this cap for a while, and I've declared the fandom. Now
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be an obnoxious Yankee fan that just shits on other teams like the Mets. I still am gonna enjoy
of
watching
course.
that team. I love most of the squad, so it's just gonna be Boston.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But
Yeah,
that was something you were already doing as
yeah.
a
I mean, we were all raised by the same Yankee Mets fans, so we
yeah,
just hate.
no, it doesn't matter. If you're
Um,
from New York, unless you're Dominican, you hate Boston.
yeah.
That's just the rules. Uh, I didn't make them. I just think them up and write
We
them
just
down.
follow them.
Exactly. So moving on to this Yankee team, it's an interesting lineup. Again, there's a lot of question marks, I will say, as we go through this lineup, and each sort of spot throughout here, you're gonna kind of go, is he playing there? So leading off at second base, Gleyber Torres. Center field, Aaron Judge. First baseman, Anthony Rizzo. DH, Giancarlo Stanton. Third base, Josh Donaldson. Starting in right field, Oswaldo Cabrera. In left field, Aaron Hicks. Catching Jose Trevino. And at shortstop, Oswald Peraza is slated to be rookie that gets the nod, at least courtesy of Fangraphs for the time being. Kyle Higashioka on the bench, IKF. DJ LeMahieu being that technically a utility guy, but will play in some capacity every day that he can. They have Willie Calhoun officially beating out Rafael Ortega, at least, I'm sorry, not officially, but on Fangraphs. It is
Yeah,
projected that Willie Calhoun beats out Rafael Ortega for that final sort of spot on the Yankee bench.
that's
Um, Unfortunately, the Yankees will open the season without Harrison Bader, who has a strained oblique and will miss time. So that is why you see Aaron Judge slated to play a lot of games in center field once again. And of course, Ben Bortvet, who Yankee fans have now begun to believe is the make believe person that we traded for along with Josh Donaldson and IKF because he
yeah.
doesn't exist. That man is not around. So we'll see. Uh,
It's kind of
just
like it's a Yankee urban legend at this point.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's recovering from a shoulder aneurysm surgery. So wishing him all the best. If he's not like Manti Te'o's girlfriend. Um, Other guys who could see some time in the bigs. I mean, an interesting crop for me at least, because of what the catching situation is. IKF obviously could catch theoretically, but in the minor league system, Josh Groh, Austin Wells, and Siegler all had nice springs. Other names to sort of be on the lookout for might be a gentleman by the name of Anthony Volpe, who
Yeah,
you
I don't
might
know
have
if
heard of.
you might know him, you might not.
Yeah, currently ranked as the number 11 overall prospect, courtesy of Fangraphs. He is the first in the Yankee system. Wilmer Defoe will be in the system now. We'll see if he sticks around. Esteban Florial, interestingly enough, is out of options. So if he were to be sent down to the minor leagues, uh, any team at that point could just scoop him that might need a center fielder at any position in the outfit. Ortega, we mentioned before. Michael Hermosillo is a non-roster invite. Billy McKinney, And of course, then there's Everson Pereira and Jason Dominguez, 2 and 5 in the Yankee system, or I'm sorry, 3 and 4 now in the Yankee system, headed into this year, as outfielders. Um, as the veteran of this Yankee fandom, I will express to you my thoughts here.
Go ahead. Break it
Uh,
down.
Even what we just listed out, I think there most people in Yankee land are expecting that this is not the roster that we see in a week.
Yeah.
It's kind of this like, will they, but they definitely should move an infielder in all likelihood, either IKF or Gleyber Torres for either some pitching depth or, a substantial, enough outfielder to cover some center field for them. At least for right now, we'll see how that translates. Hopefully, something can materialize. And then in that situation, you expect to see Anthony Volpe potentially move up into a full-time role in the big leagues because of what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the lineup though, as a new Yankee fan?
I mean, I like the lineup. I've been on record that the youth is the key to fully unlock what this lineup can be.
Yeah,
Um, Obviously, Volpe's been having a fantastic spring, and I genuinely don't see any reason outside of just contracts that he's not called up to the big leagues this year. He looks ready. Um, I really like Oswaldo. Praza actually just hit a home run today, right? During the
uh,
game.
possibly, I believe so.
I thought I saw that on my notifications, but no, I'm excited. I want to see what this can be fully. It was a fun lineup in the beginning of last year, and then started to batter some worries once Aaron Judge wasn't hitting. It was kind of like, okay, who else is going to make that big hit? Um, I don't expect Donaldson to have as rough of a year as he did last year. I expect some type of bounce back. Um, but I'm curious about what he can be on the back because his glove is still there. Why is Aaron Hicks still starting? That's my big question here.
At this point, I'd say necessity. I mean, unfortunately, Hicks feels a lot like Donaldson in the sense that you can't really move him. No one's going
Yeah,
to take those contracts. Donaldson, this is the last year his for 25. Hicks has, I think, 3 more seasons after this one on his extension, or maybe 2 more after this one.
yeah,
But he also hits his 10 and 5 halfway through the season, which is 10 years of major league service and 5 with a given team, which also at that point would give him a no trade clause, which is
yeah,
interesting to note. And that's the 10 and 5 rule. So that's something to keep an eye on. If the Yankees were to try to package him with someone to open up a roster spot, it would be kind of tough to do it after July. Um,
yeah. Because me and Alex were talking, and he's full on. Hey, just eat the fucking contract. Just cut him and eat it.
that's a lot to man.
It's a lot, and yeah, I don't know. I
That
just
still counts against you in all of your tax. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So at
yeah,
that point, unless he's a full-on cruise for a second year in a row, he's a detriment. I mean, you run him out there, especially right now when you don't literally have one very good outfielder on your roster.
yeah,
When you only have one outfielder, you figure it out with what's left. Moving on to the starting rotation. Of note, I mean, right away, this has been kind of rocked by injury. Carlos Rodon will start the season with a strained forearm. I've gone on the record as saying this feels more phantom IL-ish
mhm,
in giving some time for the competition between Domingo Herman and Clark Schmidt to breathe, figure out who that go-to fifth starter between the two of them will be going forward. Uh, that's because Frankie Montas will be out likely for the entire season. They still can't identify what the issue is there, let alone try to repair it, unfortunately. And Luis Gil had Tommy John last May, but he might be able to factor in hopefully by around the All-Star break. But we shall see there. In the interim, though, you go Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Herman Schmidt, and last year's standout Nestor Cortez in that sort of 5 slot. And to my understanding, that's just to give a little bit of extra time to get ready since he missed a good bit of spring.
yeah,
Uh, Other guys who could see some time in the rotation, Matt Crook, has been a name that's circled as somebody who might actually make the team out of spring, along with Randy Vasquez. Johnny Burrito's a big name, and former top prospect Davey Garcia is also an interesting guy out there. Another 40-man player in Yoendris Gomez is on his way up, so we could see him potentially as well crack that rotation. Um, Thoughts on this rotation?
Uh, I really like it. I think healthy. We talked about this in the 20
Yeah.
question episode. I think healthy it was my favorite rotation in the league just to watch like 1 through 5. It's just super solid. Um, I'm hoping that you're right about the Phantom IL thing with Carlos Rodon, and then we do see him in that first week and a half of the season.
Mhm.
Um, I do expect big things out of Nestor this year. The person I expect that not a lot of people are talking about is Louis Severino.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a big year this year, contract a year. Um, no matter what, I think if he's has like a slight injury or whatever, something he can play through, but not, they're going to throw him out there, just be like, hey, we're the cuffs are off, let's go. I think that's going to be a case with him this year.
Yeah. Um, Moving on to the bullpen, another couple of injuries. Unfortunately, the Yankees would be without Scott Efros, who was an exciting piece for them last year, as he underwent Tommy John in October, so he will definitively miss the entire season now. Then you have Tommy Kahnle returning to the Yankees, has some bicep tendonitis, but he will return likely in the early stages. Also, Lou Trevino has a strained elbow at the moment, but is also likely to return in relatively quick fashion. I believe the reports where he was going to get set to throw starting early next week. Aside from that, though, you go Clay Holmes. This is more of a closer by committee, I think, but Clay
Yeah.
Holmes is slated to get the most looks with Jonathan Loizaga, Michael King, Wandy Peralta, Ron Marinaccio, Greg Weisser, Jim Cordero, Albert Abreu in that pen. Some other guys who could see some time out there. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Yankees to give Davey a shot in that bullpen,
Mm.
along with Matt Crook. And then some former major leaguers of note, Ryan Weber, Tyler Danish, James Norwood, Ian Hamilton, DeMarcus Evans. So some names for sure uh, could potentially factor in some. Yeah, I mean, for me, the Yankees bullpen has always been kind of a strength. Again, it feels like there's still a good amount of depth there, and that's considering two of the guys on the IL will be back in short order. You hope that this is a team that can, sort of preserve a lead. We saw Clay Holmes be lights out, Michael King, same deal until they essentially got pitched into the ground, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You hope that the two of them can do, something again. Loizaga, kind of an opposite deal, just a terrible 2022 after at one point being, viewed as the heir to the Chapman throne in the ninth inning role. So he'll definitely get some looks at the back end there. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, Wandy Peralta for the guy who's just been, I mean, you brought in Canely to get some lefties, but Peralta is going to be
Yeah.
the lefty to watch in this bullpen at this point. It's has to be the guy in any spot that they bring him in. So how do you feel about the bullpen?
No, I think it's deep, and there's a lot of the talent is around the same level. I feel like my
Mhm.
big thing is I'm really willing to see if someone just comes out and wins that traditional closer role between the
Yeah,
three. Um, and I'm just hoping that innings doesn't get him because I was a big fan of Michael King last year,
yeah,
and Holmes has been always lights out. So I'm wondering if they end up making a move to do that, or if they save their moves for their more starting rotation.
yeah. No, for sure. Definitely interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. So we're gonna go right in now to our sort of let's rank these teams. Let's tell our predictions for excuse me how the standings will shake out. I'll let you go number four. No, I'll let you go first. Who is your number five
My
in this
number
division?
5 is going to be the Boston Red Sox. And I just think they have too many holes. then they're not. It's going to be a case where they're going to be a solid team, probably around 70 wins. But I feel like it just has too many holes compared to the rest of the division that they're just going to end up last. My name to look out for, and the name I'm going to watch a lot is Yoshida. He was really, really impressive in the WBC. I expect him to just, go ahead and have a great, great season with them. And I think he can turn it up and be one of their representatives in the All Star game this year.
I like that. I'm going to go a slightly different route here. I'm also going Boston. Don't get me wrong in that 5 hole. But in terms of the player I want to see, and I'm curious to watch, it's actually going to be Bobby Dahlbeck, a
Mhm.
former highly ranked prospect for the Red Sox, who unfortunately got stuck right behind Rafael Devers. And now the transition to first hasn't been the smoothest. They go out and bring in Justin Turner to sort of eat a lot of that DH role. I'm curious if Dalbec can take a step forward now. And, you know, he has the rookie in Tristan Casas also there that he has to contend with. But if Dalbec can show that the bat still plays, especially in Fenway,
Yeah,
um, I think he can earn his way into more of a stable playing role, which is something I think Red Sox fans in particular have been waiting to see for a long time. So I'd be curious to sort of see, where that goes. I'll go next in my number 4 slot,
hmm
Baltimore Orioles. This is a team for me who I think in our 3 words or less, I think I said game or less. Uh,
yeah,
as in, I have them missing the playoffs by literally a game or half a game. I guess it would have to be a game full on, but you know what I mean.
yeah,
They're a team who's going to be right there. I love what this lineup is. Love what the pitching staff could be. And again, this is another team with some depth that could, factor into a trade market for a top tier starter come the All-Star break around there. So the guy I'm going to just highlight right away as my guy to keep an eye out for, you know what? I'm gonna go with, wow, this is gonna be tough. I'm gonna go Adley Rushman.
okay,
Uh, Adley Rushman to
sure.
sort of be the heir to, we talked about Joey Barton in the past episode, but let Adley Rushman be the heir to the Buster Posey throne of the clear-cut best catcher in baseball.
Yeah,
The bat hit was absolutely there for him last year. The glove is there. He's a sturdy guy, doesn't miss a lot of time, at least in minor leagues. He is something to watch as a physical specimen, a switch hitting bat, can spray the ball around. I love what he can be on sort of both sides for them. And at least early on, I expected to see maybe more of a catching weight than a veteran would get, maybe a fewer days off kind of schedule. So again, we'll see how that plays, but I really like Adley Rishman
yeah. No, I respect that. For me, 3 and 4, I kept going in between. Um, I just couldn't figure it out. So right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and say that Baltimore ends up also with number 4,
there. Okay.
seed. Um, I can see them obviously proving me wrong because I'm pretty high up on this roster. My guy to watch though is going to be Grayson Rodriguez. I
Wow.
think him at his addition, I think he can just come off firing right off the bat. He is just electric stuff all around. Um, and I feel like if he's firing, this team can surprise more than it did already last year.
Yeah.
Surprise a lot more people, and if he's good, they're gonna be set for a while.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. For me, I'm in a little bit of a different spot as we go to the number 3, where you
Mhm.
said your 3 and 4 went back and forth. My 2 and 3 went back and forth an insane amount.
Yeah.
Um, and this is going to surprise some folks. My number 3 is the New York Yankees.
Okay. That is.
Uh, that is honestly for me, I went back and forth with this a lot, and I mean a lot. For me, though, ultimately, what it comes down to is the injury bug has already been biting.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a year when you were hoping to have a little bit more of flexibility because Bader's around in center. We got lucky with what Aaron Judge was able to do, largely in part of being able to stay on the field and healthy.
Yeah.
I don't love us testing our luck with running him out there a ton of games to center again. Beyond that, it's for me a little bit of a question mark in terms of just being able to, the willingness to pull triggers, whether it be a move regarding, Gleyber Torres for, some pitching or IKF for another outfielder. It just feels like a redundancy of talent at the moment for a limited couple of spots. And I'm curious to see how that goes. The guy I'm going to highlight for the Yankees this year, I have Aaron Judge as my MVP of the league. That hasn't changed. But instead, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to highlight Oswaldo Cabrera,
Love it.
a guy with no clear-cut role on this team other than just to be the hyper utility man. Last year, you saw him in, what was it, six positions, both corner, outfield, first, second, third, and short. He's still going to play those and now add in center field, which they run him out at a few different options, do a few different times during spring training. Uh, his glove plays anywhere and everywhere. It's maybe one of the most incredible things to watch in general in baseball at this point. Just right away, an impact glove. If he can be just an league average bat from both
Yeah.
sides of the plate, and just be able to factor into that lineup day in and day out, in a different capacity, different roles, spelling different guys, he's going to have a hell of a season.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. For me, my number three is going to be the Blue Jays.
Okay.
And whereas you were saying the injury bug hit the Yankees uh, is going to be the reason, I can understand that, but at least it hit them early in the year and not
Yeah,
later in the year.
that's
Whereas
fair.
that's where I think that Toronto is going to finish 3 or 4. Is I feel like the injury bug will happen at the worst time for them,
Okay.
and that'll ultimately, hurt their chances of either making the playoffs or dropping down. Um, my guy to watch. I'm really curious on how Dalton Varsho enters this lineup and if he can, be the guy that they're hoping they traded for. I'm hoping he can add a just different type of depth to this lineup that Vladdy needs, that Bichette needs, and all of that. Obviously, I'm a big Vladdy Guerrero Jr. fan. I'm hoping he has a great year, and I think he will. But Varsho to me is like the key for them to be like a top tier team in the league.
Sure. I really like that. See, for me, I'm gonna just go right into it. Blue Jays are my number two. So that was the back and forth for me. The Blue Jays, um, I I you know, I'm a big believer it is easier to add depth than star talent,
Yeah,
just outright for me. Like it's easier for the Blue Jays to go get that guy versus the Yankees to find an everyday starter. And that was kind of the difference maker for me. The guy I'm going to highlight is flat out Bo Bichette.
mm,
Bo Bichette came in big. He's led the league in hits 2 years in a row, but still keeps feeling like he's getting lost in the conversation next to Vlad Guerrero Jr. And that's not unjustifiable
yeah,
with Guerrero's talent. But I still want to see Bichette take that next step into that elite tier of shortstops in baseball that I think we all believe he can be. I know he's put a lot of work in over the course of the offseason in terms of his defense, because that was something that people have chatted about quite a bit of the potential of him having to move off to either third or second just
yeah,
because of the range and the arm. But, hopefully he can keep the bat going while still taking a step forward that way. So I'm going to keep my eyes on Bo Bichette for sure. So who's your number two?
my
Yeah.
number two. So honestly, like how my 3 and 4 is going back and forth, I was going back and forth between 1 and 2. But ultimately, I had the Yankees ending up in the second seed and eventually birthing through a wild card. Um, for me, I gotta go with one of the two of the young kids. I think Peraza and Volpe are going to be the key. I've been harping on this for months and
Yeah.
months. Like you, same thing with Cabrera too. The the youth is what's going to unlock the full potential of this Yankee lineup. And I
Yeah,
think those guys starting off and even having great seasons are going to help names like Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu, like ease into and not have as much pressure on them to perform that they could just go out there and ball.
I love that. I really do. And then I guess we both unanimously are going Tampa Bay to
Yeah.
reclaim this division. And I'm going to come right out. My guy to watch is actually going to be. I mean, I went back and forth on this a lot. The guy I'm going with here is actually going to be Zach Eflin.
Okay.
Biggest deal in Tampa Bay Rays history. Says something just outright. And as a team who has this ability to bring in pitchers that are, kind of forgotten about, wayward arms that they see something in and then they
Yeah.
just draw it out to be this closer caliber, or in this case, an ace, theoretically. I'm so curious what they saw in Zach Eflin. I know he had a really good bounce back season last year, but still, I mean, that moniker of biggest contract in history, that means they see something that can
Yeah.
turn this man into like the next. I mean, I don't even know who the equivalent would be of a late in life ace.
Yeah.
But they're seeing something that the rest of the baseball world wasn't ready to jump on, and they couldn't get it on up. So that's my guy to watch for sure.
No, I respect that. For me, I'm going to go on the offensive side. I know it's going to be the boring pick, but Randy Rosarena, I
Yeah,
think it's just the key to this team just finally getting over that hump that they've been searching for and
yeah,
eventually making the World Series again and winning it. If
yeah.
he could have just a full season like how he had with the WBC, or even like a slight step back, we're looking at like an MVP potential type season from him. And
Mm,
I think that's just going to be so fun to watch
yeah,
until it's against the Yankees. And then once he's beating up on everybody else, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm very excited to see what he can do this year.
for sure. So now the question begs, if I so for myself, I mean, it's obvious because if I remember correctly, I had Houston as my top
Yeah.
wild card team. Now my 2-3, because I didn't take anyone out of the Central, goes Blue Jays, Yankees. Did
Yeah.
you have someone coming out of the Central or no?
I had the White Sox. So my
Okay,
division
so how
winners
does it work?
are Rays, Guardians, and Seattle. My wild card one is the Astros. Wild card two is the Yankees, and I have my wild card three being the White Sox.
Okay, interesting stuff. And we'll do an episode to come on our sort of playoff predictions from that. So stay tuned for
Yeah,
that.
and then
In the
we'll
meantime,
hopefully get the rest of everybody else in their predictions as well.
oh, for sure. In the meantime, though, it has been real. It has been nice. It has been really, really nice. Thank you for doing this AL East predictions with us, and hope to do this again soon.